Okay, well hello, my name is John Taylor and welcome to this Toon Boom Harmony Q&A session. Like I've just said, this is my only really second live stream, so please bear with me. It's going to be hopefully a reasonably good, fun and interesting time, but it could have a few giggles along the way as I try and get my head around this whole streaming thing. But just kind of give you a bit of an intro to what we're going to do today. I'm going to spend about an hour with you, and I'm going to be going through lots of pre-asked questions, and then at the end I'm going to give some time to the chat room. So if you have any questions that you want to ask live, I'll hopefully be able to answer them and demonstrate to you the answer to your problem. So that's basically what's going to happen. So I reckon the kind of pre-asked questions will take around about half an hour. Yeah, so a bit about me. So I've been animating now for about 15 years, and I first came across Toon Boom back at university. I think it was 2002, and I've been using Flash for about 2 or 3 years. We kind of shipped over one of the really early versions of Toon Boom all the way from Canada. Absolutely fell in love with it, and then moved on from Flash to Toon Boom, and I've never really looked back since. And I've been a sort of Toon Boom boy ever since that time, and so I absolutely love it. And yeah, and I've been working as an animator ever since, really, all kind of personal projects and commission projects. I use it pretty much every day. But saying that, I'm not an expert, as in I don't know everything there is to know about Toon Boom. So I know quite a lot about cutout animation, but I'm not an expert at the sort of 3D importing stuff. I'm not particularly great at 2D, sort of more traditional style animation. But again, I know roughly how to do most of it. So if you have any questions, I will try my best to answer it, but I can't promise that I will be able to. So thank you, first of all, to all those that have sent me questions. I will try and answer as many as I said during this hour. And yeah, thank you for sending those in. So the first question that I get probably the most on my YouTube channel is, which version of Toon Boom shall I buy, and is particularly premium worth the money? So what I want to do is just show you the Toon Boom website, because on here at the bottom of the features page on Harmony, you'll see this really helpful kind of table which shows you what the differences are between Essentials, Advanced and Premium. Now I've come back from the days when I used to use it when it was Studio, and then I bought Animate, and then I moved up to Harmony. So I've been right through the 3 different type packages, which basically is what these are. Essentials is kind of Studio, Advanced is the Animate version, and Premium is what was Harmony by itself. So I've used Premium now for quite a long time. I've never used Essentials and Advanced. So I can't be definitely sure what is different between them. So I use this helpful table to kind of tell people what's the difference is. And most things, to be honest, are quite similar. So most of the basic interface and the tools are pretty much the same across all three versions. Let me have a look and try and pick out a few that I think are quite important if you're looking at sort of getting Toon Boom for the first time. The art layers is something that I really like. So let me just show you in Harmony. The art layers are these things here on the side. These are the advanced ones. So in Premium you get 4 of them, which is the Overlay Art Layer, the Layer Art, Line Art, Color Art and Underlay. Now these can be really important, particularly when you're using some of the things like auto patching or trying to do more advanced cutout rigs in the node view. They're really helpful to be able to put an extra bit of artwork on top of the line art. So for example, down here on this text layer here, I've got a layer called Drawing, and all of this text is on the line art layer. But what I could do is add something else onto the overlay layer that's on top of that on the line art. So the 4 special advanced layers are all within that one frame. I hope that kind of makes sense. But they're really useful for really kind of advanced rigging. So if you're looking at doing proper, really good cutout animation, I'd recommend getting that, which is obviously in the premium version. That's really, really important. I use that a lot. So that's one thing. So if you get the advanced version, you get all 4 as well. So you don't have to get premium for that, but you need to get the advanced version for that. Let's have a look at some of the other things. Simplified timeline, again, that's absolutely fine. But if you're starting off, you won't really need the super duper advanced extras. Onion skinning, really important for any type of animation. That's included on all of them as well. You get the light box, I think that's above here somewhere. Your light table, that's on all of them, so that's really important. So again, as you can see, quite a lot of the things are the same. When we get down here, this is where the real difference is, and mainly because of the deformers. And now I'm going to come on to deformers quite a lot in the next sort of 20 minutes. So I'm not going to explain all the ones individually now. I'll do that in a few minutes. But basically, in the basic package, you only get bone deformers, and that's the same with all of them. But in premium, you get curved and envelope deformers. Now I use curve a huge amount, so I'm not sure that I could do my productions now without the curved deformers. So I've kind of fallen in love with those. Envelope deformers are even more advanced, I think, and I've never really used them a huge amount, but they can be really helpful, and again I'll explain why later. But you do get the bone deformers in the basic version, which is really, really helpful. Now, as a cutout animator, I find the node view wonderful, and it's a bit scary when you first use it, but on the whole it is really, really, really useful, and you'd only get that in the premium version. So rigging a character in the timeline is a lot more complicated and a lot more fiddly. And so once you get your head around the node view, you can rig a character reasonably quickly. So again, I wouldn't want to be without that now personally, but it all depends on your budget really in the end. Morphing, again, you don't get that in the basic version, but you get that in the other ones. Inverse kinematics, I don't really use, to be honest, very much in my characters. But again, you only get that in the premium version. And then you get X sheets if you're more of a traditional animator who does sort of hand-drawn 2D. You get your X sheet all included in all versions. And then it comes down here, you get 3D rotation of planes in your environment and premium, where you don't get that in the others. And obviously 3D modeling, you can import lots of 3D models into Harmony and work with 2D characters in a 3D environment. And again, to get all the full features of that, you need the premium version really. And then the only other thing really is the effects and the sort of particle system and the node view and stuff, which again, it depends on what you need. If you're starting off, then the basics version would be fine, and you get a few built-in effects. But obviously when you get right up to premium, you get 45 built-in plugins plus the open effects, which you can get as well. And also you get node view, you get the shader, you get particle systems and stuff, which again, if you're doing really advanced kind of studio level stuff where you want really high effects in your animation, then that is crucial really. So again, that's pretty much standard. So what I would do is I'd go through this list if you're looking at getting Harmony for the first time and just see what you need. And if you really are just starting off, then you'll probably find that Essentials would be fine for you. And again, you can upgrade to Advanced quite quickly if that doesn't work for you. So don't be too fixed in one version. You can upgrade. You can definitely upgrade, and I'm pretty sure you can downgrade as well if you need to. But obviously contact Toon directly if you need to do that. So I hope that's been reasonably helpful, and that website is toonboom.com/product/harmony/features to get to this table. So I will just minimize that. Okay, so my first question I have had today is, after that one, is what is the difference between bone deformers, curve deformers, and envelope deformers, and can I just explain what they are? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a new layer and just draw an arm for you. So let me just do that, plus symbol, drawing layer, and I'm just going to call this arms, and go add. I'm just going to turn off my little hello for a second. Where's my mouse gone? There we go. Okay, so let me just, where did I draw this? Okay, so I've got I'm just going to draw a very quick arm on the screen here, so I can show you deformers. Whee. I'm just going to do a sleeve. And just do a very simple hand. Okay, so again, very quick. I'm going to show you how to create a deformer and the differences between them. So once you've done your drawing, I'm even going to colour it in. So let me just go to my paint. Oh, come on, I can't see my mouse very well. Paint bucket. I'm just going to come over here and just fill that some colour I've pre-created. Okay, so say I've done my drawing and now I want to add a deformer to this arm. I'll go up here to my settings, I'm going to select it, And then over here in your tool properties window, you get the different options. Now, the first mode is the automatic mode, and that depends on how you first click on the drawing, which I'll explain in a minute. But if you want to force a bone deformer, you can click on this button, and if you want to force a curve deformer, you can click on that button, and if you want to force an envelope deformer, you can click on that button. But I'll show you how to do it in the automatic mode. So a bone deformer, you first click where the pivot is going to be. So in this case, it would be the shoulder. So you just click and let go, and then you do a second point where you want the bend to be. So in this case, it's the elbow. So again, you just click and let go, and then you want to do a final point, which will be kind of the wrist area, and you click and let go. And now, while you're in the setup mode, you can drag these points around and change them until you're happy with them. And this circle should roughly be, if you hold that little button down and drag it in, it should just be within the drawing space, I would recommend. But again, you can play with that until it works. Once you're happy with it, you click on the transform tool, and that's kind of then set the deformer. So a bone is simply the sense of, same as your elbow, it bends from a particular point. So that is a bone deformer, like so, and I can grab it here and pull it, and obviously it automatically bends the arm for me, like so. And you can even grab the end if you want to and shrink it. So if you're doing a lot of squash and stretch, you can kind of grab it and pull it around and do that. But it's reasonably rigid. So that's it. So if you're looking for quite a rigid, more natural design, I suppose, that's the best way to do it. So what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to go to my Navy and just get rid of that deformer. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to do the same again. I'm going to create a curve deformer instead. So let's go over to the setup mode, and then to do a curve deformer, rather than clicking and letting go, I'm going to click and drag. So again, you always do the first one from the pivot. So you click and drag, and then again I go about a third of the way maybe, and then go to the last place and click and drag back towards you. And then again go to your transform tool, and that is done. And what it does is it makes a much more fluid shape. So rather than being quite rigid like the bone deformer, this one is a bit more flexible. So if you're going for a really cartoony kind of lots of squidge, that kind of thing, then this is really good, and really super cartoony, kind of Warner Brothers style, which is I find really works really well, particularly for arms. But again, you can use it for legs as well. It also works really well for tails. So let's just say you're doing let's do another layer for a second. Let's look at this tail. I'm just going to add in, oh, where's it gone? So here we go. So I'm just going to, let's just do a bottom as such. No, let's not do that because it'll then deform. Let's just do a tail. Like so. And then I'm going to go to my deformer, add a curve deformer to this. And you can add more than one point, so you haven't got to do just those 2 points. You can do as many as you want on the shape. If you're doing arms, I would always recommend that you rig it straight like this. Even if the character isn't actually going to have a bent arm slightly, always rig it straight if you can. And even with a tail, I'd normally draw it straight and then bend it with the deformer. It just sort of solves any problems with the way you change it. But then obviously this works really well with hair and tails, or like if you're doing a snake or something, for example, you can get some really nice effects with that. Like so, and again, obviously it bends from the original pivot point as well. So that is bone and curve deformers. Now, I'm going to do a little bit about envelope. Like I said, I've never really used them a huge amount, but the more I've seen of people using them, the more amazed I've been. So let me just do another new layer for you. I'm going to call this jaw, and I'm going to just do another layer and call it eyes. So on the jaw layer, I'm just going to very quickly draw, let's say we've got a kind of gangster type character. He's got a really big jaw. I was going to do this really quickly just to give you some examples of what I mean. I'm going to colour that the same colour, and then just very quickly on the eye layer I'll just do a few eyes just to give you a bit of understanding. So I would normally put the mouth on a separate layer, so that will also be on a separate layer from the jaw, but just to kind of give you an understanding, I've kind of put it there, but let me just carry on for now. So I've got the jaw, so I've left the eyes, I'm going to the jaw, and I'm going to go to my setup mode, and I'm going to pick the envelope mode. Now what this does is it basically creates the deformer all the way around the shape. So I'm going to, in the same way I did the curve deformer, I'm going to create this envelope deformer, and then I'm going to hold down Alt when I get to the end and join it up. And again, I can still move this around before I exit the setup mode. You can go back into it afterwards, but it's always best to kind of get it set up properly first if you can. Again, I've not used as much, but it'll give you an idea of how to go about it. And then when you're happy with it, go to your transform tool. And what it does, it allows you to pull the whole shape around, as you can see. So I can morph the whole shape as much as I want. And this is really, really, really good if you're trying to do a one person a kind of full turnaround with one image. So what you can do is you can then move the character, for example, like this, again just very roughly, and do a portrait version of his face. And then obviously you can animate it over time so that it comes around to the front view, and again you can then pull this in, for example, to get the jawline coming in to do a view this way. And also you know, if it's properly rigged, you could move the mouth and the eyes with the face, etc. So they're really, really good. And there are some good videos on YouTube. I haven't done one yet, but I will do, of how to do them properly. But that gives you a rough idea of what the curve deformer and the bone deformer and the envelope deformers do. So I hope that's kind of reasonably clear. So the next question was, how to add different deformers to different drawings. So let's say, I've got an example of that. So let me just turn these off for a second. And I'm going to go down here. So I've drawn a body here, for example. Now let's say that this character is a human character, and normally he has a normal arm like this one here, for example, but let's say he's a bit of a superhero or something, and during his transformation he transforms into an octopus. So on the other, so I've done one layer for the body and I've done one layer for the arm. Again, normally I'd break this down into sleeve, two parts to the arm and the hand, but just for example it's just one layer. But on the second image of the arm, I've drawn an octopus arm, because he transforms into this octopus. So when I'm going through my rigging process, I'm going to create a bone deformer for this arm here. So I'm going to do the same as I did a few minutes ago. Create a bone deformer. That's gone to a stroke. Oh, I'm on envelope still. I was going to create that quickly. So obviously when he's in his human state, he'll obviously have a normal arm with a normal bone deformer. But obviously if I then jump to my second image, obviously that image holds the same deformer. So as I try and bend it, you can see it doesn't really work because the deformer is designed for my arm. But there's a way around that, so let me show you. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to my second image, click on that keyframe, and then up here on your deformer toolbar, you have got create new deformation chain or deformation chain, depending on where you come from. So you click on that, and what you'll see is that in this box next to it, you've now got two different transformations. So the first one is linked to the first drawing, and the second one is linked to the second one. And what you'll see is that the deformer has now disappeared from my drawing. So with the second one selected, I can go back into my setup mode, and I can create this time a curve deformer. So I'll just again very quickly create a curve deformer and exit that. And then if I switch back to my first drawing on the timeline, you'll see that original deformer is still there. So I can be animating this one. He can then transform into an octopus, and I can then carry on moving that without destroying the image too much, like so. And then again, if I went to the next image, which is the arm, and let me just delete that one for a second. So let's go here, and I'll go up to my library, and now he's going to turn back to being a human again. I select the arm, and the deformer is already put on with the correct image, so it's already built in. So that is how you add chains. Okay, and this is another question, is how to show the deformer chains. So how to quickly show all the deformers on a character. So let me just turn off this one for a second. Okay, so here we go. So here's Maddie, and to simply select all of her, what I'm going to do is select her by doing Apple A, or you can go into the group and click on her master peg, and then to show all of the deformers, up here again on your deformer toolbar, you've got the little button here which says show selected deformer chain and hide all others. So if you've got everything selected, when you click on that, it will show all the deformers within her. So for example, she's got eyebrows that have curved deformers, so I can get a good expression out of that. Her necklaces here have deformers on. These little bits don't have them, so you have to animate them separately. Her body has a bone deformer, so when I bend her, all her top body bends nicely, so again you can get some really nice animation out of that. And I even added a curve deformer to her skirt, so that if I need to, I can animate her skirt moving. And also her feet have little bone deformers on as well. So that's how to show them all. And again, if you want to hide them all, you just deselect her and then click on the button again, and it hides all the deformers. And then again, if you only want to show one part of the deformer, because showing all the deformers can really slow your computer down. So if you've got a character that has got lots of hair with all different deformers, it's best to only use one at a time, or show one at a time. Just click on the item that you want to show and just click on that button again, and it will just show that one deformer that's attached to the character, or that body part. As far as I know, there's not a keyboard shortcut. I could be wrong, but I've never known what it is, if there is one. Because it really is quite simple, just to to select and then press the button. So that's how I do it anyway. So if there is one, please let me know, because I would quite help me. I use that quite a lot, so that'd be really good. So that's how to do that one. So we'll move on to another question. Okay, so then I was asked, how do I save to the library from the timeline? Because in one of my tutorial videos I showed how to save it from the node view, but I didn't really cover how to show it from the timeline. So I'll just cover both as well, just so you can see. So if I want to take Maddie, again here, into my library, first of all select the folder you want to move her into. So let's stick her in my Batman folder. I'm going to right click on that and then go right to modify, which means the little padlock would disappear. And then simply what I can do is grab the whole group from the timeline and just click and drag that into the window in the library. And I'll just pop this in and call this Maddie test, so I know to delete this one later. And then what you'll find is that then pops straight in there, and I can right click on that again and go to edit template, and it'll open up the template editing window. Eventually, here we go. So this window, as you see on my thing down the bottom, I've now got two. One of them is the editor, and this then just shows her rig. So here she is. That's her template, and anything I change in here will obviously change the template in the library. But you'll see that all of her hands and mouths and eyes and stuff have all been copied into the template. So that's how to do that. I can just shut that. Hopefully, it shouldn't need to save. There we go. So that's how to do a whole character. But again, if you want to, for example, say you've done a character in a front view, a 3/4 view and portrait view, what you might want to do is just to save the head, or all the different heads individually, into your library. So the way to do that is, again, in a very similar way, is to go into the timeline, find the head. So what you can do is you can select the head, go up the hierarchy by pressing B, and then you can find it by pressing O in your timeline, which centers on selection. collapse that back up to the highest group point, and then drag that across again, just the head, into your library window. And I'll just rename that again, test. So now we have this one. So if I open the test head in the template editor, you should see just the head, still fully rigged with all the mouths and all that sort of stuff attached to it, but it should just be the head. And then what I'll do is I'll show you how to drag that back in again. Yes, so here we go. Here's the template, and inside the group head here you see we've got the whole head fully rigged still, and ready to go for animation. So again, let's say I've got this head in a character and I want to drag that back into my animation. What you can do is you just simply drag that and you then drop it into your rig in the timeline where you want it to be. So let me just drag that above the current head, which, let me just put that back there. Let's see where I am. The rigs can get very complicated. There we go, head. So there's the head. I'm going to drag that one above that head in the timeline and drop it in there. Now what I'm going to do is select that, and you can see if I pull it out, we've now got two heads and they both do the thing. So that's how to do it, and I'll just show you in the node view what that looks like. So if we go over to our Maddie, here's her rig, which looks well complicated, but over here you'll see that we should have somewhere a second head. Okay, so it's going to auto save for me. That's very kind. Thank you very much. That's there on top of it. Sorry, there we go. So now we have two heads. So for example, we could have one that's the portrait head, and we could have one that is the 3/4 view head. And so you can have all the different heads all within the same rig. So as you're animating, you can go between the different rigs, the different heads quite easily. And one of the questions I have got for later is how to do head turns, a smooth cutout head turn, which I can't fully do in the time that we've got, but I'll try and give some idea of how to do it using this Maddie character. So I'm just going to delete that just for now. So I hope that's clear. I hope that all makes sense about how to drag and import from the timeline. If you want to do it in the node view, you simply have to go onto it, you right click and say copy, and then you go over to here and then go paste, and you paste it from the node view. And the one really important rule is to, if you save it from the node view, always drag it back into the node view. And if you are dragging from the timeline, always drag it back into the timeline, just to stop any confusion between in the software. It can occasionally cause a few problems, so that's one thing to remember. Obviously, if you only have essentials or advanced, you aren't going to have the node view anyway. And if you want to see how to rig a character in the timeline view, in 2 weeks' time, I'm going to be recording a tutorial about how to rig a character from scratch in the timeline view rather than in the node view. Because I know that plenty of my viewers on YouTube don't have premium, so I'm going to try and do a video just for them. So I hope that is clear and that all makes sense. The other question that I had recently was if you've drawn a character and you've divided the line art from the color art onto the different layers, how do you move and cut a piece onto another layer and keep them on separate layers? So let me just again do another quick drawing layer. So let's just say I'm going to draw a very, very quick head for you. I'll do it in black so you can see it. So let's just say we're drawing a character. Kind of making him up on the spot. He's a bit sad today. It's not very sunny. And let's give him a bit of colour. So what I'm going to do, oh, I'm on the wrong layer. So first of all, let's make sure that I'm actually drawing on the right layer. So I'm going to just select all of that, copy and cut it, and make sure that I'm on the line art. And then to colour that in, you can either colour it all in the line art layer and then copy and delete it and paste it into the colour art, or what you can do is select it all and then go to this little mattress button here, which it should be create colour art from line art. Click on that, and then when you go to the colour art layer in the drawing window, you'll see these blue kind of stroke lines. It's giving you kind of a pattern to fill in, so we can go in now and fill in our character. So now we have the colour on the colour art and we have line art on the line art layer. Hopefully that's nice and clear. But obviously what we want to do now is, as we start to rig, we want to split up the character into different pieces. So let's say we want to do this eye here. How do we cut that onto a new layer and keep them on separate layers? So let me just do that. So what I'm going to do is I'll go to the cutter tool, and I'm going. And again, there's different options here. You can do a marquee or a lasso. A lasso is helpful here. So I'm just going to select. Let's do the nose, because that's a bit more colourful than the eye. So I've selected that with the cutter. And what I'm going to do now is Apple 8, or if you haven't got that, it's Edit, Create Drawing from Drawing Selection. And I'm going to create a test nose layer. Oh, hang on a second, I've done the wrong thing. I've got ahead of myself. Over here in the cutter option, sorry, you have the second option which says apply to line art and color art. Make sure that is selected. Then with your cutter, select the section you want, and then we'll do our test nose and go OK. And if we go to the drawing window, have I just cut the wrong bit out? I did the eye, didn't I? Hang on a second, right. You can't beat live streaming for making mistakes, can you? So again, we'll do that. Cut that out. Test nose. So now go to drawing. What you'll see is on the line art, we've only got the line, and on the colour, it's cut out the colour for me. So that is the way to cut up your character while keeping the colour on the right layer and the line art on the right layer. So hopefully that's pretty straightforward, I think. So there we go. Now, okay, so we're on to head turns. So let me just see your question, Gizmo. Can't do a head turn using the drawing substitution instead of, can't you? Can't you do a head turn using the drawing substitution? Yes, you can. And that's the way that I used to do it. So what would happen is you would draw your character in 3 or 4 different positions. You'd then cut him all out in those different positions, and obviously you'd have a different picture for each position of the head. And then what you do is you simply flip the image as you turn the head. But what happens is that can be quite jolty. So the way to do that, I'll just try and sort of show you here quickly, is if I add a peg onto this head and nose. I'll just drop this in here. So this is a very basic rig here. I'm just going to set up a pivot point. Okay, so my head here is now rigged very roughly. And then if I wanted to do another image, let me just go, for example, to the head here. I should have prepped this beforehand, that would have been more helpful. But let's just say his head to the profile, or 3/4, is going to be something like this. Again, very, very, very quickly, but just to give you an example. Right, so we've got 2 different images. So to get from that one to that one is quite a jump. So what you would have done is you just flip it to the next image, which obviously is a real big jolt. And the way to get around that a little bit, if you're doing it this way, is to go to the top peg, create a keyframe there, and then what you want to do is add a little bit of movement before the main movement. So, for example, if I'm going to turn my head this way, I'm going to move my head the opposite way, ever so slightly, just to move the head before the flip. So, for example, I'm going to go to about here. I'm going to move, he's going to turn his head that way, so I'm going to go backwards this way. I'll just turn my animate mode on, sorry. Slightly that way, and then as his head comes that way, I'm going to put a keyframe about 3 frames afterwards of him looking downwards. So the movement is followed, or the flip happens during movement, which obviously stops it from being so harsh. And also you can add that a little bit more, and add a bit of a bounce back as well, just to kind of settle his head back. So as you play it, you can do it like that, which obviously when it's drawn properly, it looks a bit smoother than that. But that kind of gives you a rough idea, and that's how I did most of my animation for many, many years. Let me go back to my Maddie character, and I'll just show you how I do it now. It was just slightly more advanced than that. Let me just turn her back on. Come on, Maddie. Right, there she is. Let's turn my heads off. Let me just get rid of this second head as well, because that's going to get very confusing. Okay, so I've designed Maddie to be a one image character. So rather than having lots of different positions of her head that you have to flip between, I've done it so that I can keep the same image as you can see on the screen and turn her head as I animate. So I'll just show you how I would do that. So I'm just going to start with the keyframe. So let me just show you the breakdown first. So her hair here, for example, is a lot bigger than what you can see. So I can move that, and I've done that with the cutter. And the same with these pieces here, they're a lot bigger than what you can see on the screen. And all the individual pieces are broken down into lots of little bits. So every piece you can see is a separate piece. All the ears are separate, the hair is separate, and all these bits are separate. The more you cut it down, the more flexibility you have with your character. Obviously it takes quite a while to cut the character out and rig it, but obviously ultimately it's really good. So let's say we're going to have her looking at the camera and her head's going to turn, same with the other character, over to this side of the screen. What we can do is we can come along, let me just get rid of all this extra stuff for a second, because we won't need that for now. So we've got wrong one. So there she is, solid, right, okay. So I'm going to go through now and I'm going to get her next key pose. So the key pose is going to be the final position. So I'm just going to make sure that I've... There we go, right. So okay, so her head's going to turn the other way. So I'm going to go up my hierarchy and just nudge all these bits over. And have her looking at kind of 3/4 perspective. And now obviously her ear here is coming, as her head turns, it's coming into her head, like the other one is, but obviously it's now in front of the face, which obviously doesn't work. So I'm going to nudge that back in space by holding down Alt and pushing up, and that pushes her ear behind her body, or behind her head, sorry. And then her actual head as well is a separate bit as well. So I'm going to slightly make that a bit smaller, just ever so slightly. And the same with her hair, her back hair. I'm just going to make that slightly smaller and bring it a bit further away. And I'm going to make the eyes look over that way as well, just to make it. Okay, so now if we move that along, you'll see her head turns now, all with the same image. And again, what you can do is take that extreme, so you can make the head even smaller. If you're doing and then you can bring her nose right to the edge of the line there. And that's basically how you do a full head turnaround with one image in this style. So that's the kind of two keyframes. So what I want to do here though is that when you're animating, you never turn your head like this. You always dip it either up or down, depending on the way you're going to go. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go halfway through. So about let's move that one to frame 10, and in frame 5, I'm just going to take all those bits again and just nudge them down. Just ever so slightly, not too much. And again, you think about the perspective, because obviously as your head goes down, your mouth is going to go slightly closer to your eyes. So these nudges here shouldn't be as big. So the kind of freckles, the nose and the mouth shouldn't be quite as big. And again, all the hair is going to come down, but these ears are going to go up slightly. So I'm going to match that actually with this. Yes, I should make a peg for the face, for example. I should have a whole thing on the face. I should do, yeah. It's quite a simple answer. So then you'll see her head dips and turns like so as she moves. And again, what I would do after all head turns is a bit of a settled position. So again, I go about anything from 4, maybe 6 frames, and then I would just... Actually, have I got one? No, I haven't got one. I haven't got a master peg for the face. So I'm just going to nudge it back just a tad on that. I should have I'm not sure why I haven't got a master peg on the face. That would save me so much time. So if I just play that for you. And again, you can also add, for example, you can actually move here, you could add her head going up slightly as well. So she's kind of looking up as she does it. But that's what I try and do with my characters now. I try and do it all within one. Right. Okay, so let me have one more look at my list. Which is actually pretty good timing. We've got 10 minutes. So I think I've covered all of my pre-questions. I think I have. So do you have any questions? Well, I've got 10 minutes left. Is there anything that you would like me to show you? Anything that I can cover for you? Please drop it into the comments, and I am watching, and please just let me know, and I will try my best to answer it now for you if I can. Obviously it has to be something reasonably fast, but if you've got anything I will happily answer it. Okay, that's a good one. So the underlay art layer, what's it used for? Mainly for rigging, to be honest. Sometimes if I'm drawing something, I will sketch it on the underlay art layer, and I will then draw it onto the line art. So for example, let's say I'm doing a hand. Oh, let's not do that. Let me just set it up so you can see. Handy test. Hand test. So I'm going to go to my drawing. What sometimes I might do, for example, is take a sketch color. I have a new voice message on Skype. How exciting. And I'll sketch out a hand. That's the wrong color. And then sometimes I would go to the line art, and turning on the little eye symbol shows you all the layers. And then with my final color, I would go in and do that. And then go to my underlay and just select all of those. My Facebook page, yes, it's facebook.com/MrJohnTaylor.animator. So yeah, please do go and like that. And then obviously you've still got your line art, your finished line art, but which is not too bad. But really, the main thing what you do is, for example, doing sleeves. So let me just do a sleeve, for example. Let's say we've got a sleeve like this. So the top of a t-shirt. What you can do is you can have this piece here on the underlay. So if I just do that, select that, I'm going to copy and delete it and put it on the underlay art layer. That's the kind of the ring bit underneath. So let's just do a couple of new colors. And then another one, slightly darker. I'm going to fill that. So that's only on the underlay art layer. And I've got my line art up here. Yes, thanks for the link. That's really helpful. So let me just get rid of Maddie again. And I'm just going to fill in the top part of the arm. Wrong one. Okay, so I've got a sleeve here. Sorry, I'm trying to do this quickly so that you actually get to see it. Bear with me. Bear with. Okay. So here's a sleeve. So this bit underneath is on the Underlay Art Layer. So when I go to my node view, and let me just find it. Okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go into this. So this is the hand test, which is now the sleeve. I'm going to go into that in the settings, and then what we can do is under the drawing tab, you can select which layers you want to show. So in this case, I only want to show the top of the sleeve. So I'm going to turn the underlay off and close it. Now what you'll see is when we go here, that's disappeared. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy it and paste this into here, and now on this one I only want to show the underlay art, so I'm going to turn those off. Let's just do another composite just so it's nice and clear. And then what you can do is you can add obviously pegs to these. Oh, it's gone. I'm not connected it up somewhere. And then what I can do with this here, for example, is animate that over time. So as he's moving his arm up, you can hide that behind there, for example. So rather than having lots of different drawings, you can have the same thing just split over different drawings. And obviously what you can do is also have the arms. So let's say we've got an arm layer, you can have the arm hiding behind that in your behind the sleeve, but in front of the sort of ring at the back. So it's one drawing broken down into different bits, and also which you can all animate separately. I hope that kind of makes sense as a quick example. The muscle effect. Oh, do you mean the actual node, the muscle node? Is that what you mean? Under here. So I'm being asked about the muscle effect. So if you go to your node library and type in muscle, yes, the auto muscle. Yeah, basically auto muscle is a way of creating an effect where if you bend an arm, the top part grows. I've only a friend of mine used it once and had real problems with it. I've personally never used it, but I can always have a look into it and do a little video on that for you. Okay. Right, so I think we'll call it a day. So please come and contact me, and thanks for watching. And I'll be back next Wednesday with my drawing Sheldon Cooper video. So please come and join me for that. And I will say goodbye for now. All right, so again, yeah, thanks for watching, and I will be back very soon. All right, bye for now.